Ancient Book of Gad the Seer, referenced in 1 Chronicles 29:29 and alluded to in 1 Corinthians 12:12 and Galatians 4:26 by Ken Johnson, Ph.D. Chapter 1, The First Vision, 29:23 a.m., 1002 B.C. In the 31st year of King David's reign in Jerusalem, which is the 38th year of David's reign, the word of Yahuwah came to Gad the seer in the month of Iyar, near the stream of the Kidron Valley, saying, the cry, Thus says Yahuwah, Go, be courageous, and stand in the midst of the stream, and cry in a great voice, Tarry and hasten, tarry and hasten, tarry and hasten, for there is still a vision for the son of Jesse. And during the cry, face the eastern gate on the east side of the city, and stretch forth your hands toward Shamayim, heaven. And I did exactly what I had been commanded to do. Vision of the donkey and camel. And it came to pass, when I finished crying out, I opened my eyes and saw a yoke of oxen, led by a donkey and a camel, coming up from the Kidron stream, the donkey on the right side of the yoke, and the camel on the left. The four mixtures, and a great voice like the roll of thunder was following them, crying with a bitter voice, Seer, seer, seer. These are four mixtures that confuse the people of Yahuwah. For the impure and the pure have been mixed, and then impurity took control over purity, a mixture from Seer, Edom, to rule over them, to increase power over and betray a righteous doer, to destroy holiness, to crown wickedness, to set up impure matters in the guise of purity. The moon kingdom. And after the voice of a great quake occurred that shook over the impurity and blew the donkey and the camel into the moon with a stormy wind. And the moon was opened and looked like a bow, a semicircle, and both her points reached toward the ground. The vision of Elohim. And lo, the sun came out of Shamayim, heaven, in the shape of a man, with a crown on his head, carrying over his right shoulder a lamb, despised and rejected. And on the crown on his head, 3 shepherds are seen, shackled with 12 shackles. And these shackles were of gold, plated with silver. The Messiah's death. And the voice of the Lamb was heard, great and dreadful, like the voice of a roaring lion over his prey. Woe unto me, woe unto me, woe unto me. My image, Messiah, has been diminished. My refuge has been lost. My lot and destiny has turned me over to my spoilers, and I was defiled until evening by the touch of impurity. The Messiah's heart. And it came to pass, when the voice of the Lamb ceased speaking, lo, a man dressed in linen came with 3 vine branches and 12 palms in his hand. And he took the lamb from the hand of the son, Sun, and put the crown on his head, and the vine branches and palms on his heart. And the man dressed in linen cried like a ram's horn, saying, "What are you doing here, impurity? And how did you get here, impurity? That you have carved yourself a place to combine impurity with my covenant that I have set with the vine branches and palms." Elohim's judgment on impurity. And I heard the Lamb's shepherd saying, "There is a place with me for the pure, but not for the impure, for I am a Kodesh, holy Elohim, and I do not want the impure. I only want the pure, even though I created them both, and my eyes are equally on them both. But there is an advantage to the abundance of purity over the abundance of impurity, just like there is an advantage of a man over a shadow. For the shadow does not exist without man, and only by the man's existence is the shadow given to the tired and exhausted. This applies in the same way to the pure and impure. For all gates of intelligence are turned around since the death of the 8 branches of the vine, as is found in words of righteousness in the true book. But because of the wanderings of the sheep, their rest and divisions, intelligence is stopped up until I do greatly in keeping grace. The Messianic Kingdom. I saw that impurity was driven from the moon and was given over to a consuming wrath, ground into fine dust, and blown away by the daily wind. And the day burns as a furnace to remove impurity and to erase the transgressions. And the Lamb was put on the moon forever and ever. And the Lamb took from the pure the impurity that had been mixed with them, and brought it as a peace offering sacrifice on the altar before El Shaddai, Almighty, jealous Yahuwah Sevaoth of hosts, the song of the redeemed. And I heard those singing the song of the Lamb, saying, I shall give thanks unto you, O Yahuwah, for though you were angry with me, you forgave. For Yahuwah is my strength and song, and he is become my Redeemer. I will sing unto Yahuwah, for he is highly exalted. He had thrown the horse and his rider into the sea of reeds. Arise, intelligence. Arise, power. Arise, kingship. Arise, majesty and glory. Arise, help of Yahuwah. For Elohim has saved one who had taken away and obliterated the impurity from the earth. He fought my fight and brought into the light my righteousness by his help. My help cometh from Yahuwah, who made Shamayim, heaven and earth. Psalm 121:2. Truly, who is like you, glorious in holiness, but not in impurity? For you are great over all, raised over all. You spoke and acted, for you declared the end from the beginning, and you sealed everything by your words, and turned my heart and convicted me. For your seal is upon me my Yahuwah. And these are 3 vine branches and 12 palms that are on my heart. You glorified me. You erased the vanity of fearing man, and you gave me a pure heart forever. For that I will praise you at all times, and thank you among the nations, for you have greatly redeemed me from my king, and showed favor to the Messiah, David's seed, forever and ever. Elohim and his son. And I heard a voice crying from Shamayim, heaven, saying, You are my son, you are my firstborn, you are my first fruits. Haven't I brought you up from the brook of Mitzrayim, Egypt, wholeheartedly, to be my daily delight? But you have put away my gifts and dressed up the impure with the pure, and that is why all these things have happened to you. And who is like unto you among all creatures on earth? For they lived in your shadow, and by your wounds they were healed. For that consider well that which is before you, because you have fulfilled the words of the shepherd all the days you have been in the sun, and you did not leave them. Therefore all this honor shall be yours. And I, Gad, son of Ahimelech, of the Jabez family, of the tribe of Judah, Yehuda, son of Yasharal, Israel, was amazed by the vision and could not settle my spirit. Ruach. The angel instructs Gad. And the one dressed in linen came down to me and touched me, saying, Write these words and seal them with the seal of truth, for I am who I am, and for I am who I am is my name, and with my name you shall bless the whole house of Yasharal, Israel, for they are of a true seed. In a little while you shall go and be quietly gathered to your fathers, but at the end of days you shall see with your own eyes all these things, not as a vision, but in reality. For in those days they shall not be called Jacob, but Yasharal, Israel. For no iniquity will be found in their remnant, for they will belong entirely to Yahuwah. And these words will restore your life and Ruach, spirit. And this shall be the sign unto you when you enter the town. You will find my servant David while he is reading these words from the book of covenant. And yet for all that, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not reject them, neither will I abhor them, to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them. For I am Yahuwah, their Elohim. Leviticus 26:44. And you shall tell him about the scene you have just seen. And when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. Gad tells David his vision. And it came to pass, when I came to the house of David, the man of Elohim, I found him as the one dressed in linen had said, and I told him of all my visions. Then David spoke the words of this song unto Yahuwah, saying, I love you, O Yahuwah, my strength. And to me he said, Yahuwah has blessed you, and has not removed his covenant from you, for he is true, and his word is true, and his seal is true. Chapter 2. The second vision, the regathering. After these true things, I had a vision from Elohim saying, set your face eastward, northward, southward, and westward, and whistle with your mouth as a bird whistles to its young, and say, four corners of the earth, listen to the word of Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah, who sits and dwells over the cherubim. Give, give, give. Take out, take out, take out. My seed that I have sown in you, for the time for the seed has come. For yet a little while I shall collect my seed on my threshing floor. And the threshing floor will be Kadesh, holy. An impure seed will not be found there. Prior to those days, my seed was mixed with lentils and barley and fitches, beans and gourds. Millennial kingdom. And in the end of days, the sower shall be true, and the seed shall be true, and from the seed all the land will be blessed. Be joyful and glad, remnant of Yehuda, Judah, and rejected of Yasharal, Israel, for salvation is with Yahuwah. As you shall be a curse and blasphemy to all the families of the earth, so shall you be a blessing and grace forever. At that time no cursed or unholy people will be found among you, for everyone will join you in the covenant, the law, testimonies, statutes, and ordinances. And you and they shall have one Elohim, one covenant, one law, one language, for all shall speak in the language of Hebrew, the Kadesh, holy language. Blessed are you, O Yasharal, Israel, who is like unto you, a people saved by Yahuwah, for he will go before you to fight your wars with your enemies. Replacement theology, Edom and Rome. Woe to you, O Edom, that sits in the land of Kittim, in the north of the sea, for your destroyers will emerge from a terrible nation. They will not even leave you a remnant. For you have said, I sit on high, and only I have a covenant with the Elohim of Elohims. For Yahuwah chose me instead of his Kadesh, holy people, for he abhorred them, and his former people, despised and rejected, did not truly know the Elohim, the Father. Because they did not know his image, the Son. We are truly wise and intelligent. We know Yahuwah and his law. We know his image, the Son, and presence, the Ruach HaKodesh, Holy Spirit. But thus says Yahuwah, because you rose up in pride to brag about the Elohim of Elohims, know that you will perish in your conceitedness. For why would you put confidence in man, whose life is like a vapor, which begins in the morning and is gone by noonday, placing him to sit beside Elohim? For it is not you whom I knew formerly. And where is the bill of divorce of my people that you said would be a prey? Show it to me. Judgment of Rome. Your corpses will fall among my people. O jealous Yahweh, come out of your place and smite Edom. Consume them. Come to Zarephath. Come to Sephrad. Come to Ashkenaz. Come to Garmania. They shall come and fall in the lowest pit, in destruction, and in the shadow of death, for your mouth will fail you, and no one will help you. Michael stands up. At the end of days, Michael, the great prince, will stand up in war like a whirlwind against Samael, the prince of this world, to put him under his feet in the wind of Yahuwah, and it shall be eaten up, for Yahuwah has spoken it. Millennial Kingdom. At the end of days, the robbed will overcome the robber, and the weak, the strong, truly and in righteousness. Your Elohim is your Savior, O Yasharal, Israel. With him you will be saved, for he is a merciful Elohim. He will not abandon you, for you shall keep on doing all that I commanded you in the law of Moses, my servant. Chapter 3. The Moabite. Between 2892 and 2908 a.m., 1033 to 1017 BC. When the feast of Passover came on the 15th of the first month, a Moabite shepherd came to David and talked with him, saying, My lord the king, you have known that I, your servant, have been loyal to Yasharal, Israel, from my youth. And now take me away from dwelling among uncircumcised people, and circumcise the flesh of my foreskin, to take away my reproach, so that I can sit among your people. And David said, Yahuwah does not want your people. And he commanded, an Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter into the assembly of Yahuwah forever. Deuteronomy 23:3. And we cannot seek your peace nor your prosperity. But how can I help you today? The servant answered, Is it not true that Ruth was of our people, and you are one of her children and descendants of, and Yahuwah has chosen you and your descendants forever? Then said he, You have given a convincing argument. Stand here with me to ask from the mouth of my Yahuwah. And David asked Yahuwah about the statement of the Moabite servant. And David said, O Yahuwah, Yahuwah Sabaoth, teach me wondrous things out of your law, so that I may know how to rule for this servant, and what should be done with him. And Yahuwah said to Nathan the prophet, Go to David, my servant, and tell him the message that I tell you. And Nathan went to David to his chambers, saying, This is what Yahuwah Sabaoth says. I have heard your prayer, so tell the Moabite, You are a Moabite man, not a Moabite woman. For I never said a Moabite woman and an Ammonite woman, because their women and daughters belong to Yahuwah. However, you are cursed by Yahuwah, and forbidden to enter Yahuwah's assembly. When the Moabite heard the message of Yahuwah, he cried out and exclaimed, I am forbidden from entering the assembly of Yahuwah? And the king took him and appointed him a shepherd among David's shepherds. And he was there until the 3rd year of the reign of King Solomon. Then he died. And he had a daughter whose name was Sapphira. And she had a beautiful form and was very fair to look upon. King Solomon took her to be his concubine, and she found grace and favor in his sight more than all the other concubines, and she became the chief of the concubines' residence. And this became the statute in Yasharal, Israel, forever. Chapter 4. David the Wise Judge. Between 2892 and 2908 a.m., 1033 to 1017 B.C. In those days, a man from Bethlehem, the city of David, went to Jerusalem, to pay the vow which he had vowed unto Yahuwah. His name was Zabad the Parhi, and he was of the family of the Perizzites. Zabad's father was very sick, even unto the point of death. So Zabad vowed, when Yahuwah heals my father of his sickness, I will weigh out 2 talents of silver and give them to the house of Yahuwah into the hand of King David. And it came to pass, when he was at the house of the shepherds along the way, he lost the pouch with the money in it, and he was upset. He came to the city of Jerusalem, into the inner city, and he wrote on all the gates these words, anyone who finds a lost pouch with 2 talents of silver and brings it to me, I will give him a talent of silver as a reward. After a while, a man from the tribe of Dan came and had in his hand the pouch with the silver talents that he found along the way, and he gave it to the owner of the pouch. And the Danite said to Zabad, give me the talent of silver as you promised. And the Zabad said, no, there were actually 3 talents in my pouch, and you have already stolen 1 talent. I mistakenly wrote down the wrong number. So both of them came and stood before the king. And the king said to the Zabad, swear unto me by Yahuwah that you truly had 3 talents of silver in your pouch. And Zabad swore to him by Yahuwah. And the king continued, saying to the Danite, swear unto me by Yahuwah that you only found 2 talents of silver, in the pouch. And he swore to him by Yahuwah. And David said to Zabad, give the pouch with the talents back to the Danite, because this is his money that Yahuwah has given him by chance. Now, go and write on the city gates, whoever finds the pouch with 3 talents should bring it to me, because this is not your pouch. And David took the pouch with the talents of silver from the hand of the Zabad and gave it to the Danite. And the Danite bowed his head and prostrated himself to the earth and said, long live my Adonai, Lord, King David forever. And all Yasharal, Israel, heard of this judgment, and they marveled over David and were overjoyed, because they saw that he was full of the wisdom of Elohim. Chapter 5. The Fire Angel and the Philistines. Between 2892 to 2908 a.m., 1033 to 1017 BC. All the Philistines assembled themselves together to fight against Yasharal, Israel. There were so many multitudes of Philistines that they could not be numbered. And David was greatly distressed because he was afraid of the Philistines. And Yahuwah said to Gad, "Go and tell David, my servant, do not be worried about these uncircumcised Philistines, because tomorrow I will give them and those other oppressors with them into your hand." And David said to Gad, "I am not worthy of all these mercies that Yahuwah has shown me. But blessed be the name of Yahuwah forever and ever." That night a fire angel came from heaven, Shamayim, with his drawn sword in his hand. And he attacked the camp of the uncircumcised. It was such a great slaughter that none of them were left alive. And it came to pass the next morning, they came to David, saying, "Behold, all the Philistines have been killed by someone who rose up against them. Not a single one of them was left alive." And David raised his voice and said, "Now I know that nothing can hinder Yahuwah. He can save us from many or few, and his salvation can be in a blink of an eye." And he said, "Blessed are you, O Yahuwah, who has been taking revenge for us on our enemies." And he set up a pillar and called it the pillar of revenge unto this day. Chapter 6. David's covenant between 2892 and 2908 a.m., 1033 to 1017 BC. Yahuwah said to Gad, "Go tell David, my servant, thus says Yahuwah, let not the mighty man glory in his might, but let him that glories glory in this, that my help is with him. Then you should go and fear not, for Yahuwah is with you." And Gad came and told David what Yahuwah had said. And David said to Gad, "I have known the help of Yahuwah from my youth. For who struck down the lion and the bear? Who destroyed the Philistines? Who destroyed my enemies? Was it not by the help of Elohim?" And when Yahuwah heard that, he was very pleased with David's heart. And he said, "Because David has acknowledged my help instead of his own glory, my help will dwell in the house of David forever." And Gad told David what Yahuwah said. And David bowed down before Yahuwah and said, "Blessed be Yahuwah, for I have found favor in his eyes." Chapter 7. David's sin of counting between 2908 to 2924 a.m., 1017 to 1001 BC. And again the anger of Yahuwah was kindled against Yasharal, Israel. And he moved Hasatan against David, saying, "Go number Yasharal and Judah, to bring them the evil he spoke through Samuel the seer." And the king said to Joab, the captain, and to the princes of the people, "Go now through all the tribes of Yasharal, Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, and number the people, and bring me word, that I may know the sum of them." And Joab said unto the king, May Yahuwah add unto the people how many soever they may be, 100-fold. And may the eyes of Yahuwah, our Elohim, watch over them. But my Adonai, the king, are they not all my Adonai servants? Why does my Adonai require this thing? And why should it be a cause of trespass unto Yasharal, Israel? For Yahuwah has said, which cannot be numbered for the multitude. Notwithstanding, the king's words prevailed against Joab and against the captains of the host. And Joab and the captains of the host went from the presence of the king to number the people of Yasharal, Israel. And they passed over the Jordan and camped in Aroer, south of the town, in the middle of the river of Gad, and toward Jazer. And they came to Gilead, and then to the land of the Hittites, to Kadesh. And they came to Dan and Enan, and round about to Zidon. And they came to the stronghold of Tyre, and to all the cities of the Hivites and the Canaanites. And they went out to the south of Judah, to Beersheba. So when they had gone through all the land, they came to Jerusalem at the end of 9 months and 20 days. But Joab did not number Levi and Benjamin, for the king's word was abominable to Joab. And Joab gave up the sum of the number of the people unto David. And all they of Yasharal, Israel, were 800,000 valiant men, and 300,000 men that drew a sword. And in Judah, there were 470,000 valiant men, and 30,000 men that drew a sword. And Yahuwah Elohim was displeased with this act of Yasharal, Israel, and he sent Gad the seer to David, saying, Thus said Yahuwah, I am the king of Yasharal, Israel, and I am their portion. I am the avenger. I am their fortress and might. And you know that it is not with a sword or a spear that I will save, and not with a man of valiance that draws a sword. For this is the portion of the heathens that stand on their might and many warriors. But you are not like that, for I am a lone warrior, and there is no one with me. Why would you do this evil to number your people? For that I will strike Yasharal, Israel, so that you will know that I am Yahuwah in the midst of the earth. And David's heart was grieved after that. And David said unto Yahuwah, I have sinned greatly in what I have done. But now, O Yahuwah, I beg you, take away the iniquity of your servant, for I have acted very foolishly. And David rose up in the morning, and the word of Yahuwah had already come to Gad the prophet, David's seer, saying, Go and say unto David, Thus says Yahuwah, I offer you 3 things. Choose one of them, that I may do it unto you. So Gad came to David and told him, and said unto him, Shall 4 years of famine come unto the land of Yasharal, Israel, and 3 years in the land of Judah? Or will you flee 3 months before your foes, while they pursue you with the sword of your enemies, while the sword of your enemies overtake you? Or shall there be 3 days of the sword of Yahuwah, which is pestilence in your land? And the messenger angel of Yahuwah, destroying throughout all the land of Yasharal, Israel? Now advise yourself and decide what answer I shall return to him who sent me. And David said unto Gad, I am in a great strait. Let me fall, and let us fall now into the hand of Yahuwah, for his mercies are great. And let me not fall into the hand of man. So Yahuwah sent a pestilence upon Yasharal, Israel, from morning even to the time appointed. And there died of the people from Dan even to Beersheba 70,000 men. And Elohim sent an angel messenger unto Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, to destroy it. And as he was destroying it, Yahuwah beheld, and he repented him of the evil, and said to the angel messenger that was destroying the people, It is enough, now stay your hand. And the messenger angel of Yahuwah was standing by the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And David lifted up his eyes and saw the angel messenger of Yahuwah standing between the Shamayim, heaven, and the earth, having drawn a sword in his hand stretched out over Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. And David and the elders who were clothed in sackcloth fell upon their faces. And David said unto Elohim, Is it not that I commanded the people to be numbered? Even I, it is that have sinned and acted wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? O Yahuwah, my Elohim, let your hand be against me and against my father's house, but not against your people, that they should be plagued. Shall not the judge of all the earth do justice? And Yahuwah said, They incited Hasatan against you to number them, saying thus, We will be like all the nations. But I am an Elohim of justice. May I return their high heart into their own bosoms. For a broken or a contrite heart I shall not despise forever. Psalm 51:17. And the messenger angel of Yahuwah told Gad to tell David that David should go up and rear an altar unto Yahuwah on the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And David went up according to the words of Gad, which he spoke in the name of Yahuwah. And Ornan was looking, and he saw the king and his 4 sons with him. Now Ornan was threshing wheat, and Ornan looked and saw David. And he went out of the threshing floor and bowed down to David with his face to the ground. Then David said to Ornan, Sell me the place of this threshing floor, that I may build an altar therein unto Yahuwah. You shall sell it to me for the full price, that the plague may be stayed from the people. And Ornan said unto David, Take it, and let my Adonai, the king, do that which is good in his eyes. Lo, I give the oxen also for burnt offering, and the threshing instruments for wood, and the wheat for the meal offering. I give it all. And King David said to Ornan, No, but I will verily buy it for the full price. For I will not take that which is yours for Yahuwah, nor offer a burnt offering without paying for it. So David gave Ornan for the place 600 shekels of gold, and for the cattle 50 shekels of silver by weight. And David built there an altar unto Yahuwah, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings, and called upon Yahuwah, and he answered him from heaven, Shamayim, by fire upon the altar of burnt offering. And Yahuwah commanded the messenger, angel, and he put his sword back into the sheath thereof, and the plague was stayed from Yasharal, Israel. At that time when David saw that Yahuwah had answered him in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite, and he did not despise him, then he sacrificed there unto Yahuwah for the rest of his life. For David would no longer go and sacrifice unto Yahuwah in the high place at Gibeon, where there was an altar unto Yahuwah, and the tabernacle which Moses made. For he was terrified and weakened because of the sword of the messenger, angel of Yahuwah, that he had seen. Chapter 8. David's sermon. Between 2908 to 2924 a.m., 1017 to 1001 B.C. Yahuwah appeared unto David when he was old, and said to him, Behold, I am with you, and I am your Elohim, and behold, my covenant is with you. Do not be afraid nor discouraged, because your Elohim is your helper. And David bowed down to Yahuwah and rejoiced in his heart. And Yahuwah said, Speak these words in my name to the people, and make sure they understand and obey, so that they will live. If they do, I will no longer be angry with them. And Yahuwah put his words in his mouth. Then David assembled all Yasharal, Israel, in Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, and he made a pulpit of wood for himself, and he stood upon it and addressed all the people. He opened his mouth and said, David's teaching, Hear, O Yasharal, Israel, your Elohim and my Elohim is one, the only one, and unique. There is no one like his individuality. He is hidden from everyone. He always has been and always will be eternal. He fills his creation, but his creation does not fill him. He sees everything, but is not seen. He knows the future and reveals it to mankind, for he is the never-ending Elohim, and there is no end to his presence, power, and truth. Whole words are full of his glory. He gave each person free choice. If one person wants to do good, he will be helped. But if a person wants to do evil, he will find a way. As for us, we will worship our Elohim, who is our King, our Adon, and our Savior, with love and awe. For your wisdom begins with the fear of Yahuwah, and if you truly understand him, you will depart from evil. Remember and obey the law of Moses, the man of Elohim, so that you will live a blessed life all of your days. Ask your fathers, and they will teach you. Ask your elders, and they will instruct you. Do not just listen to the law, but be strong and valiant to obey all of it. Hearing is like the seed, but a deed shows that the seed has taken root in you. It then becomes a tree of belief, which produces the fruit of true righteousness. What becomes of a smelly, rotten seed if no root will come out of it? So hurry, be quick to hear and act. For if you are a true seed, if you have belief and righteousness, then Yahuwah will bless you all with peace. Live in peace with each other. Love the deeds and those created in the image of Yahuwah, like your own selves, because it is a sign that you love the Creator. If you love His creation, you cannot take hold of the one, but withdraw your hand from the other. Love Yahuwah and also man, so that it will be well with you all the days of your life. Chapter 8. David's closing prayer. David raised his voice and lifted his hands toward Shamayim, heaven, and said, Yahuwah, O Elohim, the Elohim of spirits, Ruachoth, of all flesh, Elohim, merciful and gracious, guard Yasharal, Israel, forever. Save your people and bless your inheritance, and tend to them and uphold them forever. And all the people called out, Aman, Aman. And David sent the people away, and they went home peacefully.